This is the Travel and Tourism Show on Star FM.
We are Star FM, sounding good all the time. Hashtag 6th gear. This is the Travel and Tourism Show, and I'm Mazwi Shamu. On the show, we like touching base with key people within the travel and tourism industry in Zimbabwe who can give us an indication of what's happening on the ground, what's available for tourists, and also how a tourism operator perhaps can take advantage or get ahead in the market, especially now as we run with the mantra Zimbabwe is open for business. On the show tonight, we have invited Godfrey Koti, who is the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority Head of Corporate Affairs. He's not new on the program, and he's certainly not new here at Star FM. It's been a while since we've had him on the show, and I'm looking forward to hearing how ZTA has been progressing with their initiatives. Chief, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mazwi. How are you doing? Say happy birthday to you guys as well, yeah?
Happy
you. 6th. I see the 6th gears doing well.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so good to have you back. It's always a pleasure having you on the show. You can get in touch with us or contribute on the show via my Facebook page or Twitter handle at Mazwi Shamu. Chief, ZTA has been busy. My goodness. But perhaps to start off with, the last time you were here, the hot topic was the registration of tourism operators. What was the result of that? Is that still ongoing, or was it a once-off blitz?
Well, thank you so much for that question as well. Just as an update, yeah, when I was here, we had a 1 month, maybe 2 month intensified blitz on registration, but that is always an ongoing a thing that we do at ZTA. So we will always monitor our standards. We will always monitor our services if they're being, put in the right place and things like that. But then at the beginning of every year, one has to look at the registration. Has it lapsed? Because it usually lapses around the 31st of December, thereabout. So this time around, we'd given people leeway until the 31st of March, which is why we then had to sort of have that kind of blitz between April and May. So we are done with that kind of blitz, but we will always be on the streets and on the lookout as to how people are operating. Are they still maintaining minimum standards? Are they registered? Has their registration lapsed? Things like that. So we will continue monitoring, because that's the monitoring bit of the industry, and destination management comes under this monitoring. That's how we can manage to keep a destination alive, a destination attractive to people who are outside.
I like how you talking about that. This is about destination management as well. Mm-hmm. What was the overall perception after you have done, you are still ongoing, I know, mm-hmm. but at that time when you had finished the registrations, what was on the ground? Are we doing well in terms of tourism operators? How are they faring? What is the quality that we have operating on the ground?
Look, I think there's for me to outrightly answer that and say how we are doing is I have to compare with something. So if comparing to other nations within SADC, obviously with the exception of South Africa, we are doing extremely well. Comparing to countries like South Africa, destinations like South Africa, we have a bit of a way to go. We need to make sure that we match up to certain standards. If we talk about 5-star hotels, for example, in this country, how many do we have? Is a question, and look at South Africa, how many do they have? Look at England, how many do they have? So we are competing with these destinations worldwide, but I think the progress has been phenomenal, to say the least.
Zimbabwe is open for business. That's what we've been saying. Mm-hmm. And ZTA, we know, has been actively involved in attending trade fairs, exhibitions. I know that right now you are in London attending a fair. What is the message that's being given out there, and what have been the results about this? Like you said, we are in a competitive market. You were comparing South Africa and all these other destinations around us. How are you faring?
So we are part of a national strategy of re-engagement to the outside world. So our international relations are being improved on a daily basis. So tourism being one of the major pillars of the economy right now. In fact, the top 3 pillars of the economy right now. We obviously have to be in the forefront of that. And the other thing is we are the chief marketing officers of the country. So when we go out, we have to preach a message. We have to tell people something about Zimbabwe. And right now, the trend is that we are open for business. It is a trend in articulation sense, but in actual fact, it is a way of life in Zimbabwe right now. We want to open up every little thing to be easy for business to come into Zimbabwe, for business to be able to be conducively held in Zimbabwe, and convincingly for that matter. So we have done that as part of the national strategy. As part of the tourism strategy also, it is our priority to re-engage with tourists that used to come into the country, to anyone else who had any business to do with Zimbabwe tourism. So we've been going out deliberately preaching the message that Zimbabwe is alive again. Zimbabwe is open for tourism again. So we've had a lot of re-engagement trips. Beginning of the year, I'm sure you were following, we traveled quite extensively, and we still are doing that until probably the end of this year. We will be focusing on that. The idea is to reach out to markets that were traditionally and previously great markets. You look at the UK, we used to enjoy quite a substantial amount of visits from the British, and you look at places like Germany. These are countries that we've also visited now. So 1999, you look at our inflows from the UK. They've reached those levels back in 1999. Now I'm talking about a healthy 16% increase from UK market alone. I could actually be understating it. This is as far back as end of February, usually not even the first quarter. So a massive growth in that percentage as well. So right now it could be bigger. So these are things that we are completely focused on to get those people coming back into the country, to get that business happening again in this country.
Interesting figures.
Yep.
Very impressive figures too.
Extremely so, I would say.
16% plus. You're
Plus
saying?
or minus, yeah. Plus, and plus. Yeah, because this is as far as February is concerned.
Right.
Between December and February. Those are the kind of numbers that you're looking at, but there's a massive increase in terms of inflows from outside Africa.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I see that this is not your only marketing strategy that you've been using, which is going to fairs, etc., trade fairs. I've noticed the sports tourism. I think we've all noticed sports tourism, and we've all seen, or most of us have heard about how you're adopting ambassadors as strategies to bring people in. Tell me, what is the significance of sports tourism? How does that
Well, you know
bring
what,
people
Mazwi,
in?
I think you really have to be careful when you ask me that question. As you are very well aware, I'm a former sportsman, a former sportscaster with this radio station
Yes,
here.
yes.
I have an undying passion for sport. So I say be careful.
Maybe I need to rephrase it then.
But in terms of all our facets that add up to tourism itself, there's cultural tourism, there's religious tourism,
Right.
there's also sports tourism. There's quite a bit that we can talk about, but sports in particular is a great unifier, number one, in the whole wide world. Right now, as we are speaking, somebody is trying to grab the remote to switch off this radio so that they can watch the football that's on TV. So imagine the multitudes that are there at the World Cup right now. These are the people that we want to encourage to visit Zimbabwe. These are people that we want to encourage to know at least something about Destination Zimbabwe and consider it when they are planning their holidays and things like that. So that also ties into what we have called the celebrity hosting program that we've had at the ZT. I think in the years gone by, you've seen the likes of Joe Thomas coming into the country, the likes of Akon, Sean Paul, a host of celebrities that have come into the country in a bid to build a certain perception. So you'll find that we are working with all these football legends. Yeah, no, it's been a very topical issue. The idea was also to use them to sell brand Zimbabwe further. You know what I mean? And then now we are engaging other celebrities who are non-sport celebrities. So that's now your cultural tourism, and you're now looking at the celebrity hosting program. We are reviving it.
Hashtag 6th gear on Star FM, sounding good all the time. You can hear Chief here is in his 6th gear already. I want to talk about the Legends game. One of my concerns was that the stadium was empty. There was no one there. It was on a Wednesday afternoon, 3 p.m. We were at
A concern
work.
of mine too.
We were all working, and this is a stadium that has a capacity of 60 to
Yes,
80K.
60,000, yes.
Yeah. Is this money down the drain?
Actually, no, it's not money down the drain. I have to defend that in the sense that there were some serious logistic issues behind the scenes. Remember, this game was originally scheduled for the 8th of June. And then logistical issues, chief among them, the funding part, did not come into play on the particular week. So we had to push it again to the 16th and then again to the 20th. So as a result, we had these players in the country despite us having said, no, look, can we then move it to the end of the World Cup? Because the idea had been to bring in these stars into the country on the 8th of June, fly them straight to Russia when they are still fresh in their heads with Zimbabwe. But again, it didn't work out that way. But the ones that we ended up having were quite lenient enough, but they could not stay any longer than the 20th of June. So they actually left on that particular night.
Wow.
To leave to go to Russia. Most of them were working for television stations. They had these huge contracts that they had. As far as money going down the drain is concerned, I would say no, solely because we had a sponsor who came into play. It is their money that went down the drain, if you want to put it that way. Unfortunately for them, we didn't get that particular attention in Zimbabwe. However, it must also be noted that the attention was definitely not on the people that were going to attend the game at the stadium. The attention was worldwide attention, which we actually got. We got the game live on Basa TV. We got the game live on Liverpool TV. And the other stations such as Real Madrid TV, such as Blacko TV, these are sports channels that were covering this game. We'd agreed with them on these television rights. And they broadcast these games. And they have follow-up documentaries that will keep playing. If you watch Basa TV right away, you will then realize that these games were being they were being aired on these television stations. So I don't know if it was money down the drain.
What about the
but
image?
I also had the image internally in Zimbabwe was bad, but like I'm saying, externally it was amazing because
if I'm watching from outside the country and all I see are empty seats and just clusters of people here
it's a
and
midweek
there.
game. There are many explanations to that. If you're a sports person like me, it could have been a game that was under closed doors. Who cares what explanation we give to the world? What we wanted was to have these players in the country do these programs the way we wanted them to be done, which they did. So it was unfortunate we did not have the numbers of people coming in to watch these games.
Okay.
However, as far as money is concerned, I have to expressly and clearly say it was not taxpayers' money that went into that particular game. We had a sponsor who assisted us in having these guys come into the country, which is the reason why we kept postponing until we got the sponsor.
That's a relief as a taxpayer myself.
So it's definitely not haisi mari wachina masa yatakazoshandisa. We got assistance from a well-wisher. We can name them. However, I'm not too sure if I would be allowed to do that right away.
Well, let me hear about their experience. You spent time with them. How did they find Zimbabwe? What were their comments?
Fantastic. Lovely part is that when you look at somebody like Julio Baptista, he's a worldwide football star. He's some sort of a little god wherever he comes from because of the way he played football at some point. I'm just talking about him alone at this point. He loved Zimbabwe so much that he's actually coming back to Zimbabwe in December with his family. When I say family, these guys travel in hordes. So he's going to bring his brother, his brother's wife, and his brother's brother's brother. You get it? So he was so impressed that he's coming back, and he already booked for these people. He booked for accommodation in the Victoria Falls for
Awesome.
more than 20 people of his family.
That's fantastic.
So you can imagine. Fernando Mariantas as well loved the country. He experienced it, loved it. He wants to go back to Inyanga at some point. So and then Raiko Garcia tells me he is married to Lionel Messi's sister. He tells me he wants to bring her here. So hopefully the sister will convince the brother to come.
Nice. So this is a group of people who are acting as ambassadors
Yes.
within the sports industry.
Definitely.
Tell me about the individual people who you have set aside and have said, can you be ambassadors for Zimbabwe? I know we have an American one and a German
Yes.
ambassador.
Yes.
How does this work?
Right. So what we're doing also is we're identifying people from various sectors in life. So we've got a musician in Germany. She's Zimbabwean. There's no one who can sell the Zimbabwean brand better than a Zimbabwean. So we
Absolutely.
identified her because she's been extremely involved in all the tourism issues since 1996. This is Virginia Mukwesha. She's Freddie Mukwesha's daughter, former footballer of Dynamos. Very big name. He's late now. She's also daughter to Stella Chiweshe, Amboya Stella Chiweshe. She's based in Berlin. So she has been involved with the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority office in Berlin for quite a while now, and she's somebody who understands the tourism brand and what we are trying to achieve going forward. So it was a no-brainer to give her that, because she's also a musician. She's a mbira player. She's quite popular there in the circles, in the musical circles, in television sets and all that. And then we've got a lady called Shanita Foster. She's an American. She's a television star, proper Hollywood noisemaker, if you want to put it that way. She accepted to be ambassador of Zimbabwe when she came to Zimbabwe in her own volition. We didn't invite her. She had just come for a personal business because Zimbabwe is open for business. For some reason, she was here.
Nice.
So we bumped into her and we had a very interesting conversation. We tried to follow and check, due diligence and all that and what she does in the States. And we realized she's actually a very powerful brand that appeals to a lot of rich women in America. Oh. So she's a former wife to an NFL player, John Foster. And you can imagine the collateral that she comes with just the women that she was on set with in Footballers' Wives. So these are the kind of people we're trying to reach out to so that we get that top dollar coming into the country. And she's already managed to convince the National Basketball Association developmental projects managers to come and have their conference in Zimbabwe. Not only in Zimbabwe, but in Harare, Bulawayo, and the Victoria Falls. So these are projects that will attract a lot of attention around Zimbabwe. And I think it's something that is positive as far as growth and perception creation is concerned. Remember, we are coming from a season where Zimbabwe was viewed as, we were third from the bottom of the worst destinations to visit in the country. Yet we have one of the 7 wonders of the world.
Wow. Yeah. And in addition to this, everything that you've been saying, I've also noticed that e-visas are now available for Zimbabwe.
Maybe before we get to the e-visas as well, Mazwi, I must hasten to say also, we are not only focusing on international people. We have here locally been working with a group of comedians. You talk Vikela, Mai Chisamba. Well, she's not a comedian, but she's a television personality. We've got Comic Pasta, Long John. These are youngsters also who command quite a bit of a following in an attempt to promote also domestic tourism.
That's
so
good.
Yeah, we've been working on that. You were talking about the e-visas.
Yes. E-visas and the international market. How is this going to help to facilitate, and how does it work?
Well, this is the second thing you're talking about today that I'm passionate about. Digital world. There's no way right now in the world where transactions or activity takes place without involvement of digital platforms. So it is only befitting for our immigration system to have e-visas to allow people to do whatever they want to do from their phone, from their computer, from their iPad. It makes life so much easier, and it's extremely convenient, and it also puts you right up there as a destination in terms of ranking
and accessibility.
We just came from Nigeria 2 weeks ago, where we actually sat down with the UNWTO discussing how to digitize tourism. So this, for me, to the immigration officers in the country, kudos and well done. We need more of that.
I agree with you 100%. But I always come back to this question. Is our house in order on the ground? We've got these great marketing strategies. We've got the e-visas that you're talking about. We've got the ambassadors there jumping and shouting and rooting for Zim. But when we come back here, what are we offering them on the ground? In terms of products, in terms of facilities, amenities, is our house in order? How have you engaged other stakeholders, for example, transport and roads, to make things better so that the tourist can have a good tourism experience within Zimbabwe?
I think that's the reason why we are part of the top 3 pillars of the economy in the country. But we heavily depend on all the other pillars of the economy. So if I say our house is in order, I would be outrightly lying. But if I say it is not in order, I'll also be outrightly lying. We are somewhere in between, working towards being in order. If you look at the transport infrastructure in the country, there's been a bit of work happening around the country. In fact, quite a bit of work happening
on the main roads. But if you go to our attractions out there, they're still quite hard to access. No, but
there's stuff that's being done right now. If you go to Gonarejo National Park, there's been a huge improvement as far as the road is concerned. It's still a dust road, but it has improved in terms of accessibility. So it's things that we constantly have to watch and improve. But they're not within the control of the tourism ministry or the sector itself. So it's a give and take. You talk about that. People talk about the pricing of the product in essence in Zimbabwe, but it's not entirely our fault as tourism. We don't give out pricing regimes. We don't control price. There's somebody who does that. So we need to meet halfway, make them understand why we need them to control a price at a certain range. So I think there's a bit of synergy that is going on now that we've seen with in the past maybe 7 months or so. I think there's been a bit of work being done in terms of working together. There's a bit of cohesion that I'm seeing, but it's still work in progress. As far as product is concerned, we have immense products of tourism in the country, but they need to be developed, which is why we're constantly monitoring them and constantly consulting with the owners of those products.
Okay, all right. We're running out of time, and we are Star FM sounding good all the time. I'm Mazwi Shamu, and we are speaking to Godfrey Koti, who's the head of corporate affairs at Zimbabwe Tourism Authority. We'll end on a happy note. Tell us about the carnival.
Oh dear. I'm looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward to that one like every other Zimbabwean. I think those who attended the one last year had quite a massive evening, massive day of fun and fair. So this year we have brought the carnival forward to the 17th of July to the 21st of July. So that whole week is a week of festivity. Reason is we are pushing for peace. Lots of ugly scenes from Bulawayo, if you recall, in a few over the weekend. We are trying to say to Zimbabwe, we are not those kind of people. We are people who love to celebrate. We are people who love to have fun. How best can you do it other than being there just before an election? So this year, our theme is celebrating hopes and aspirations of a new Zimbabwe.
Lovely.
So we are definitely going to be having lots of fun, and we're going to be talking about this a lot on this station and many other media outlets.
That sounds very good. I'm looking forward to it. I will definitely mark my calendar, and I think everyone else should mark their calendars as well and look forward to that carnival. It's always such a pleasure having you on the show. We continue to applaud ZTA's hard work in getting Zimbabwe back on the map. Chief, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you so much for having us, Mazwi. And a happy birthday once more to Star FM for turning 6. We are looking forward to seeing you guys grow.
Yes, sixth gear. That's all we have tonight on the Travel and Tourism Show. My guest tonight was Godfrey Koti, who is the head of corporate affairs for Zimbabwe Tourism Authority. Follow me on my Facebook page or Twitter handle at Mazwi Shamu, and join me again next week for another great show. Good evening, and till next time, happy traveling.
Thank you for tuning in to the Travel and Tourism Show on Star FM.